Hey everyone, it's Kong again, freshly back from a nice long vacation of hanging out by the pool with my nephews and taking applesauce for some long hikes. And it's time to get right back into the groove with another episode of Should You Summon. As always, I'm going to be presenting high-level overviews to help you decide whether this banner is worth your hard-earned vouchers and crystals. This month's banner features the next OP meta-shifting healer, Celica, and a guy with a mask, Ymir. The banner will run from July 25th to August 21st. As usual, any SSR you pull has a 40% chance to be one of the featured units, with the remaining 20% chance reserved for any random off-banner in the regular summoning pool. I know I've been hinting about her for a while, so let's go ahead and get started with Celica. Celica is the latest OP healer with amazing allied cooldown mitigation. Her talent gives her plus 20% int and passively reduces the cooldown of any healing or support skill she uses by 1. It also gives her some dynamic flexibility with skills. Each time you use a 1C or 2C skill, you can choose to replace it with another 1C or 2C from a pool of 2 or 3 randomly selected from her overall skill set. So, for example, if you cast Heal, you may be presented with the option to replace it with Strengthen, Windblade, and Fireball. The bottom line is faster cooldowns for her heals and supports, and the ability to replace some of her skills on the fly. Her unique 1-cost skill is a single target heal that also completely refreshes the target's skill with the longest cooldown. Her unique 2-cost skill gives an ally 3 stacks of a buff that increases their enchant's chance to trigger by 15%. The max stacks a unit can have at a time is 5. When this character is having buffs dispelled, the Celica stacks are prioritized, kind of like Lightbringer's sacrificial buff stacks. Her 3-cost skill is a single target heal that also makes any buff Celica casts on the target last for an extra turn, and it gives them a revive. When this revive is triggered, it speeds up her 3C cooldown by 1, and after she casts it, she can act again, which means she can spread some more heals around. This 3C also has a sweet passive effect. Whenever she casts a heal or support skill on an ally, it also recasts itself on the 3C buffed ally automatically. Finally, if Celica targets herself with her own 3C, she gets plus 2 range and deals plus 30% damage, essentially allowing her to take advantage of some of the random DPS skills in her kit and start chipping in as a mage. She's a member of Legion of Glory, buffed by Ledin, Elwyn, Grenier, and the upcoming Bright Summoner, ELS Legends, buffed by Landius, Sigma, and the upcoming brand newly announced unit for the 6th anniversary, Enya, and Princess Alliance, buffed by Luna, Shelfaniel, and Christiane. For bonds, she doesn't unlock anyone else's bonds at the moment. For her own bonds, she does need her bannermate Ymir for her attack bond, and the soon-to-be-free Elise for her defensive bond. Yes, we're going to be getting a Secret Realm event this month that gives us the option to either take 60 Elise shards, allowing you to summon her for free, or get Rainbow shards instead if you already have Elise built up. For content, in PvE, she's on faction for Leviar, Phoenix, and Scylla in the Eternal Temple, and while she's not used in any leaderboard-busting meta teams, for Nidhogg and Hugin and Munin in Ancient Beckoning. Those are just a couple of modes, though. Celica's true value in PvE is across huge piles of other general content, thanks to her great utility, uptime, cooldown cheese, and her ability to turn herself into a DPS and chip in with damage. She's also a meta-changing PvP unit. Not just because of her ability to grant an ally an undispellable revive every 2 to 3 turns, but also due to the dramatic increase in the prevalence of infuriating clock procs we're about to witness. For her build, because of her flexible nature, she can work with any typical healer enchant and gear set. Crystal, Breeze, or Full Moon, Nightbloom's an easy choice. Some people want Scepter of Divinity to flex her self 3C bonus range, although I think that's preferable in PvE. Other than that, use whatever healer gear you like to shore up whatever weakness. The usual stuff: Ritual if you don't like AoE, Electric if you don't like Displacement, Bracer will be a common accessory. You get the idea. Okay, let's move along to Ymir. Ymir is a bulky, heavy-hitting guy who occasionally acts again. His talent gives him plus 30% damage, He starts the map with a default talent buff that gives him 30% damage reduction and debuff immunity. Every time a debuff triggers this immunity, he gets a plus 15% crit rate stack. When he has 4 of these rage stacks, ending turn in the danger zone removes his initial talent buff and lets him act again. While he's in this state, he deals damage against the weaker of the opponent's 2 defensive stats. At the end of this bonus action, he loses his crit rate stacks and regains his initial talent buff. So clearly his Act Again gimmick revolves around stacking him up with debuffs, which he is of course immune to. Fortunately, he does have a way to facilitate that process. His unique 1-cost skill is a command aura that removes a debuff from allies when they end turn within 3 spaces of him. Every debuff dispelled in this way gives him a rage stack. You can also use this skill to heal by 30% and gain up to 4 random buffs and debuffs, basically topping him off to the number of stacks needed to act again. His unique 2-cost skill is a single target melee attack that deals 1.5 times damage, applying a number of debuffs to the target before combat, equal to the number of rage stacks he currently has. It also deals additional damage if they have a debuff, which they should. His 3-cost skill passively gives him +2 mobility during the Act Again phase when his talent buff is turned off. After he acts again and cashes in his crit rate stacks, he heals by 10% for each stack. When used actively, this is a single target 1.7 times damage melee attack. If the target has a debuff, they can't revive. If they die, he can then move 3 more spaces. If they don't die, and he still has his initial talent buff, he immediately gains 4 stacks, which means he can act again. If he doesn't have his talent buff when this happens, he gets the 4 free stacks at the start of the next turn, meaning he can trigger an Act Again, as long as he's still alive by then. He's a member of Legion of Glory, buffed by Ledin, Elwyn, Grenier, and the upcoming Bright Summoner, Yeles Legends, buffed by Landius, Sigma, and the upcoming newly announced Enya, and Dark Reincarnation, buffed by Bozel and Licorice. For bonds, as noted earlier, Ymir unlocks the attack bond for his bannermate Celica. For his own bonds, he needs Leo Beck for his attack bond, and the soon-to-be free Elise for his defensive bond. For content, in PvE, he's on faction for Leviar, Phoenix, and Scylla in the Eternal Temple, and Hugin and Munin, Fenrir, and Nidhogg in Ancient Beckoning. I did see a brief proof-of-concept video of him being used to high score in Hugin and Munin, but I'm not sure if he stayed in the team since then. Any unit with an automatic self-act again is good for general PvE though. You're basically getting more free actions from a limited number of units, and it can help you clear pretty much anything. On the PvP front, he's a pretty standard one-shot DPS archetype. He's able to eat through most tanks, and all of his pre-battle debuffing means he can even clear Rosen stacks with the right setup. He also has access to a generic guard skill, which means he can flex to a physical tank for a hit or 2 if the situation demands, kind of like Bernhardt. He's a well-rounded unit to have in most boxes, including both Turtle and Rush for the next couple of seasons. For his build, a nice build for him would be the Boner Crusher Hammer, Nebulous Robes, Fury of Tyr, and the damn Apostle of Doom accessory that I still don't have yet. The extra random debuff helps pile on to his other debuffs, clearing away Rosen stacks and ensuring he gets the most from his 3C and 2C. Clock seems to be his most popular build to chain 3Cs and Act Agains, but Breeze or even Meteor will work to boost his threat and pure damage potential as well. If you want to play him more like a Bulk Lord, you can of course replace the robes with something like Tiamat's Blessing or even one of the RNG damage reduction armors. Damage reduction armors? Damage reduction armor! Alright, let's get to the meat of this episode. It's time for the notes for noobs. Celica is a meta healer, especially for PvP, but you will have a lot of fun with her even if you're a PvE only player to help keep the damage flowing. I don't just mean that from her chipping in on damage, but keeping the cooldown of all your other DPS going by quickly means they're going to be able to use their skills more often, and thus kill more enemies more fasterly. She has great factions for a beginner account too. She's a must summon, and even newer players should try to get a copy. Ymir is a meta DPS, especially for PvP. Like Celica, he flexes well into PvE, but we do have tons of interesting options for PvE already, whereas the healer slot is dominated by a couple of units. The people who built units like Ryo Sanada or Sho Fukumachi are all going to build this guy and then post screenshots of themselves dominating challenges. I'd say he's a must summon for more established accounts, whereas beginners could benefit from him, but they can also safely skip to manage resources if they have to. Basically, beginners, try to summon for Celica if you can. If you get Ymir, don't be disappointed, he'll be good for your account. Finally, just my usual reminder about upcoming banners. Next week features the return of Nemia alongside Polyol on a raid-up banner, in case you're missing some Rush staples. We're also getting Destiny banners featuring Ares, Grenshiel, and Lugner, Epsilon, Listel, and Ymir's Bond Unlocker, Leo Beck, and Landius, Yulia, and Jugler. Next month's major update features a couple more made-up non-Langrisser characters, Virelia and Seraphina. Virelia is also a must-summon for reasons, so I hope your stash is in good shape. We'll talk more about her in the next episode. Anyway, that's it for this one. I'm going to be trying to pull one copy of each, but my hard-earned crystals and vouchers are becoming scarce after just scraping through the last update. How about you? Let us know what your summoning plans are in the comments below or on This Old Neon's Discord. Thank you so much for watching, and extra special thanks of course to our Langrisser tier channel members Levitt, Kate Soon, and Jerome Meyer, and a special welcome to our newest member, Jorge Luis, maybe a Borges fan. Thanks so much for joining, and thanks to everyone for your continued support. I wish you all the best of luck, and I will catch you in the next Should You Summon.